The night over the Red Sea was unnaturally calm, the kind of silence that often precedes confusion rather than peace. Along the coastline, Houthi air defense crews sat in dimly lit command posts, eyes fixed on aging radar screens that had learned to lie as often as they told the truth. For months, they had tracked drones, cruise missiles, and conventional aircraft passing through contested airspace. Patterns had formed. Expectations had settled in. Then, without warning, something unfamiliar appeared. At first, it was barely a trace and inconsistent flicker that faded as quickly as it emerged. Operators adjusted settings, recalibrated sensors, and exchanged uneasy glances. The signal returned, weaker this time, then vanished again. To trained but overworked crews, the anomaly suggested a high-altitude aircraft using electronic countermeasures, possibly a reconnaissance platform or a strike jet attempting to probe defenses. In a region where airspace violations had become frequent, hesitation was considered a liability. Commanders were alerted. With incomplete data and rising pressure, the decision was made to respond. Missile batteries were activated, launchers aligned toward the last known bearing. The assumption was simple. If something was there, it could be threatened. What they did not know was that the aircraft above them was never meant to be understood through conventional sensors. High above the chaos, the B-2 Spirit moved silently through the darkness. Its design defied the very systems trying to detect its smooth, angular lines absorbing radar energy. To the bomber's crew, the environment below was controlled and predictable. Every radar sweep, every transmission, every defensive reaction had been anticipated long before the mission began. When the missiles launched, the ground crews believed they had acted decisively. On their screens, targets fragmented into confusing echoes. Some indicators suggested evasive movement. Others showed nothing at all. The missiles, guided by imperfect information, chased illusions, decoys, reflected signals, and empty coordinates. From the ground, it looked as if the target had simply disappeared. Confusion followed quickly. Operators argued over readings. Commanders demanded confirmation. Had the target been destroyed? Had it escaped? Or had it never truly existed in the first place? The air defense network, designed to respond to visible threats, struggled against something that operated beyond its logic. The failed interception was not a victory or a defeat. It was merely a misunderstanding of scale and capability. The Houthis believed they had engaged an intruder. In reality, they had revealed their positions, their limitations, and their assumptions. Part 1 ends with that imbalance fully exposed. One side reacting in uncertainty, the other moving with deliberate invisibility. What followed was not immediate retaliation. Instead, there was a pause long enough to feel unsettling. On the ground, Houthi command units waited for confirmation from their air defense crews. Systems were reset, logs reviewed, and technicians tried to make sense of what their instruments had shown. No wreckage, no explosion. No clear evidence that anything had been hit at all. The absence of confirmation was more alarming than failure itself. Unbeknownst to them, the consequences of their attempted interception were already unfolding. The missile launch had revealed critical information: radar frequencies, response times, command hierarchies, and defensive locations. Every emission, every activation, every hurried adjustment had been quietly collected, analyzed, and categorized. The moment the missiles left their rails, the defenders stopped being observers and became data sources. Hours later, without sirens, warnings, or visible aircraft, the first impacts occurred. Precision strikes hit select sites far from civilian areas. Command hubs, storage depots, communications relays. There was no lingering presence in the sky, no roaring engines, no dogfights to film or celebrate. Local commanders struggled to understand how targets so well hidden had been struck so efficiently. There was no buildup, no escalation ladder, no dramatic exchange. The realization slowly set in. The aircraft they had tried to engage had never been the vulnerable party. It had been the observer, the judge, and the executor operating beyond reach, beyond warning, and beyond challenge. By morning, the narrative shifted. Public statements were cautious. There were no claims of victory, no acknowledgement of failure. Silence became the strategy. International observers noticed the restraint on all sides, not because the situation lacked danger, but because the message had already been delivered. The strike was not about punishment. It was about clarity. The B-2 had come and gone without spectacle. Its mission was not to provoke a broader conflict, but to demonstrate a boundary, one that could be crossed only once. The attempted interception had not triggered chaos. It had triggered inevitability. In modern warfare, visibility is vulnerability, and reaction can be revelation. As the region absorbed the event, one lesson lingered unspoken but unmistakable. Some aircraft are not intercepted because they are not meant to be fought. They are meant to be understood only after they have already left. And by the time their presence is fully realized, the outcome has already been decided. Part 2 closes not with triumph or defeat, but with a quiet recalibration of reality, where power is measured not by how loudly it announces itself, but by how little it needs to be seen.